Hello, and welcome to the Mothers of All Crime. This is a podcast where we deep dive into mothers involved in infamous crimes and scandals. I'm Monica, and this is Krystal. Hey, Krystal. How are ya?
Hi, Monica. I'm good. How are you?
Amazing, amazing. Just, a little tired from work, but what can you do?
I know. Same
You're
thing,
living
different day, right?
it. For sure, for sure. I think we
So,
wanted to, take some time to let our listeners get to know us for a change.
yeah, absolutely. And kind of tell people why we decided to go with Mothers of All Crime rather than the all many various options that true crime has to offer.
Oh, for sure. Because this was an idea really born when you were here visiting. Because I don't know if the listeners know that we live in different states and we record these over the internet, although we do know each other in real life.
Yeah,
You
we
could even
used to
give
live
some
very
background
close.
on that. We used to live very close and we
Yeah.
used to play cornhole together in a league. And that's how we got to know each other and a bunch of our mutual friends. And we always, I mean, you and I have never really struggled to find things to talk about. We're both very chit chatty, but I think one thing that we've always had in common is that we've liked true crime and been very interested in it. And for you, it's been more of a professional thing, whereas I kind of just observe. But I do have some education and career stuff that kind of applies to this as well, especially when we get into mothers. Um, but I mean, I've always loved true crime,
Yeah,
and it's just been so fun to get to talk about it.
I know. Because you and I would sit down and have conversations about true crime and different things and cases and groups and cults.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we kind of had a moment that we're like, why don't we record it and see if other people, because we listen to people talk about it all the time, and approaching the ones that we really like and what our listeners like. We have a couple requests coming up, and we would love to hear what you guys want to listen to.
Oh, for
But
sure.
tell me and our listeners now what you do for
And
work.
so I am a perinatal sonographer. So I do ultrasounds for high risk pregnancies, and I absolutely love it. I work with potential mothers, soon to be mothers, all day long, and I'm in a mostly female led environment at work, and it's a lot of interpersonal stuff. It's a lot of, there's some psychology, there's a lot of emotions that go along with it. But really, my job is a lot of technical math, science things. So it's really, I mean, for me, my job is the perfect melding of my interests. And prior to doing this, I worked in medical market research and I have a degree in psychology. And I've always been very interested in why people do the things that they do and how we perceive people based on their roles. And for me, pregnancy is a big equalizer. And that's how a lot of people start out becoming mothers is with pregnancy. And I really see people in lots of different walks of life. But I think there's some general ideas about mothers, and that's kind of how we got into this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when it comes down to mothers, there's so much more to it
Hmm.
than just popping out a baby. Like, and I think people always forget
Definitely.
that there's the history and there's that connection, and it's not always easy. And when you have mothers who either lead into a life that's criminal or are parents to criminals, it's interesting the dynamic that a lot of them can have because there's that maternal bond, but not always that
Right.
maternal instinct.
I think that most people have some sort of idea of what they expect of a mother, and a lot of it's based on our own experiences in childhood with mothers, with grandmothers, with your friends' mothers, your cousins' mothers, your in-laws. You
Hmm.
have these expectations that are societal things, but are they reasonable to expect from every woman slash mother? And I think
Yeah.
that, women are seen as, well, innocent and a place of safety and nurturing. And ideally, that's what you'd like in a mother. And we've been very fortunate to have mothers who were very nice to us and took care of us very well, but not everyone has these experiences. And there's all different types of family dynamics. And I feel like I'm always a little bit more interested in a crime that has a woman at the top of it, just because it's not what you necessarily expect.
Hmm.
And you kind of assume, I don't know. It's a lot of like taking apart our assumptions, I feel like maybe is what we're doing with this. Do you
Yeah.
remember the case that we started talking about that I really wanted to talk, which we haven't done on the podcast yet, but I cannot wait.
Yes. And that is one that we need to do soon. But teaser again, it's a mother who just abuses that power with
Yes.
every sense of the word. But again, it pushes that boundary that you talked about where societal expectations of women
Hmm.
are so tight. And when women start to fall out of those, people have a hard time believing that they can commit those kinds of crimes.
Right.
And historically, we see crime evolve from being solely a thing that men did and women were not capable of it to the evolution of feminism and the movement coming through where women are fully capable of doing every crime the same, if not worse.
Yeah.
And it's hard for society to catch up with, but it's a reality that people need to start accepting. And that's the darkness of crime and statistics, where there's a lot of unreported crime because victims, particularly victims of women, don't necessarily want to admit that it happened or fear they're not going to get believed.
I think that is an excellent point. And I definitely agree that this is a very feminist podcast. And we are not here to malign women. We are here to empower them and say that we can be just as bad of criminals as men. And
Yes.
I think that statistics will show us that men commit all of these crimes, which I guess they do, but I do think that women play roles. And like you said, things are not reported the same way. And I think that we need to break down stigmas because mothers, women are just people. Everyone is just people. And you come into everything with your previous experiences, with your brain chemistry, with all of these different environmental and socioeconomic factors. And anyone can be the victim of a crime. A lot of people could be a perpetrator of a crime. It There are so many different situations, and I think that it's better to take people out of their boxes and to discuss them as humans. And that's what I'm trying to do here anyway.
Yeah. No, you're completely correct.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, that kind of leads into, for people who don't know, I have a history in criminal justice, like you kind of mentioned earlier.
It's
Um,
very impressive. Don't
uh,
downplay.
thank you, thank you.
Tell
Um,
us all about it.
so professionally, I work in government contracting. I'm an investigator. I kind of explain it to people that I'm nosy for a living and I talk for a living. So
You do
I
it
do
well.
I try. Yeah, I do a lot of investigation work, talking to anything from employers to individuals to the court system and gathering information and putting it into reports. But in addition to that, I am actively pursuing a PhD in criminal justice and criminology. And we take a lot of interest from that. And we kind of try to bring in to the podcast as well that it is understudied. And once
Definitely.
I get into that dissertation phase, which as of this week, I've officially been approved to start, which is very exciting.
Woo!
Um,
Incredible.
we're going to be focusing on women in crime. So we're
Oh
going
my
to
gosh, that's perfect for our podcast.
bring everybody in along on that journey with us. Uh,
Hmm.
and I, like we mentioned earlier, I think it's such a needed area that is understudied. There's a lot of gaps in research and lacking information on women and female criminals. And that's going to be, we'll talk about it as we get through the podcast and different milestones on that presentation. Um, but it's really going to be kind of a fun journey to bring you guys along with.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm very interested in hearing about the process. I think what you're studying is so cool. I think that you're going to learn so much, and we're all going to learn from you. And I definitely think that it's so important to study these things because we can only improve when we have knowledge, and we can only
Mhm.
prevent crime with understanding of how it happens. And I think that that is, I mean, such an important part of the research that you're going to be doing. And I'm excited to be along for the ride.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the hope. And I'm just looking at it like if we can start to accept that, like you said, they're people, they're individuals, they're responsible for their actions from a criminal perspective. Doesn't matter what gender you are, how you identify, a crime is a crime. And also for the victims and the empowerment that it'll give them, that it's okay to report your victimization. It's okay to have these encounters and you're not alone. And having that belief that you're going to be believed by police, society, your family, because there's so many contributing factors to it. And
Absolutely.
throughout this podcast, from previous episodes and episodes to come, you're going to see examples of women being manipulative and taking power. And a lot of the times, the victims don't always understand it, or the victims are coerced into behavior they don't realize are wrong until it's too late. Because women are trusting, caring, they're, quote, there to protect you and mother you into being a good person. Like,
For sure. Yeah. I do think that that's an expectation, and it's just not true, and it's not reliable. And I think that it makes more sense to operate from a place of truth and understanding as opposed to just making a lot of assumptions about what we wish slash expect. And I think that, especially when it comes to female sex offenders, I think that that is extremely underreported and not taken seriously, but it can seriously still damage people who are victims of it. So, who is it benefiting to not take those things seriously? And who are we enabling to continue to be victimizing people if they're not being held accountable because they're just a woman?
right. Because
And
then
how could
you
a woman
also have
sexually
to,
abuse anyone?
yeah, you have to change societal
Yeah.
understanding. Like, look at the teachers where
Hmm.
a male teacher is sleeping with his high school student. It's creepy, he's gross, it's weird. But if
Yeah.
a female teacher is sleeping with her male high school student, the kid's getting high fives, he's cool. Oh my God, you're banging the teacher. Good, like, it's hyped up. So it's that double standard that needs to be addressed where regardless of the relationship, that's not okay and that is illegal. And we need to start adjusting our viewpoints where it doesn't matter if they're attractive, it doesn't matter if they're successful. That is an adult taking advantage of a child. And I'm sure we'll
I
have
definitely
examples soon to come of that.
I definitely agree. There's definitely a few on the list, and I could also talk from some, personal experiences, but I think that we'll get into those in further episodes. I just think it's it's a niche topic that we're doing here, but it's not that niche. There's so many different examples that we could go through, even just looking at female sex, which I
Yeah.
hope we're going to be doing more of.
Yes, yes. So for anyone, we're gonna, when we post this, it's gonna be a poll that comes out, a request box. we'd love to hear what you guys want. If you have a female that you think is interesting, criminal, or even just gives you the ick, throw them out there because I'm sure there's more to it than you think there is. And we're happy to look that in for you.
For sure. I mean, we're interested in your feedback, and we'd love to make the show more fun to listen to. And we're open to suggestions. Even without suggestions, I've got a lot of ideas. So there will
Absolutely.
continue to be content. But I think that it's really exciting that you're starting your dissertation and you're going to do amazing. And I'm sure the listeners will be very interested on your progress.
Thank you. Yes, we finished all of our exams, our classes. Everything has gone smoothly. Huge sigh of relief on my end. I know
A
everyone
lot of work.
in my personal life is kind of probably relieved to not have me talk about it all the time. But it's exciting to start a portion where I am designing the study and doing the research on something that I personally think is really important. So I can't
Mhm.
wait to bring all of you guys on that journey with me.
Absolutely. Well, if you guys want to know more about us, we'd maybe do an Ask Me Anything if we had enough people interested in questioning us. And yeah, I guess we'll just catch you back next week with our regular scheduled program.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you, and we will talk soon.
Have a great night.